The American Freedom Radio Network proudly presents, live from Phoenix, Arizona, The Truth Denied Talk Radio with host Roxy Lopez. Join us here for topics you won't hear on mainstream news, such as chemtrails, GMOs, Morgellons disease, and much more. Humanity is 7 billion strong. We are the majority. And now, live from the Valley of the Sun, your host, Roxy Lopez.
Serious matters today. Very serious matters. It's Friday, the end of a long week, and the days just keep rolling, don't they? Air, water, and food have been contaminated all over our planet, and humanity needs to get a clue. Global stock markets are showing signs of yet another financial global catastrophe, making 2008 look like a winning year. Here in the USA, our citizens are in dire straits with their finances. They've lost their homes, their cars, their credit cards, and their health. Monsanto has taken over the world with genetically modified foods, people, only to find that bugs and weeds are now resistant to their poisons. So what they're going to be doing is bumping up the poisons. Smart. Yet diseases are cropping up worldwide. Diseases like autism, diabetes, lung cancer, fibromyalgia, IBD, dementia, IBS, malnutrition, stress disorders, heart attacks, and strokes. And these occurrences are all too common right now. The CDC even has a zombie apocalyptic warning on their website, if you can believe this. What's going on? A lot of citizens have turned to activism, and I want to mention a few of them because they're very important. Ones like Deborah Tavares in California of the StopTheCrime.net states that cell phone towers and smart meters are targeting the public with RF and radiation pulses that are causing people insomnia, depression, heart attacks. She says this is the end game. Russ Tanner of the Global Skywatch claims that heavy metal toxicity bombardment is causing health issues of all kinds across the world, part of the cause being aluminum oxide being sprayed into our skies. Dr. Will Spencer claims that malnutrition due partially to the genetically modified foods as well as frequencies used for bioweapons are the major causes of illnesses and as well responsible for colony collapse disorder of our fragile culture used for pollinating crops known as bees. He serves to heal human ailments in his success. His success outweighs anything I've ever seen, by the way. In 1998, Michael Belkin of the Belkin Report out of Seattle lost his 5-week-old daughter hours after she was administered a Hep B vaccine and has since gone all the way to Washington, D.C. to present the facts, coercements, the lies behind vaccinations. The book Vaccine Epidemic has 26 authors and contributors, and the book has been carefully documented as a tool for public awareness. Others, such as researcher Alfred Weber, broadcaster Jerry Pippin, Steve Swan, who represents the famous, who has now since passed away, Dr. Hulda Clark, Suzanne Taylor, Rosalind Peterson, Howard Stein, Bernard Alvarez of the GIC, running U.S. congressional candidates like Steve Sussman and Zach Grady out of Texas. In California, John Fitzgerald, Patrick Roddy. All of them have one thing in common. They have all given up their lives, the lives that they once had, in exchange for activism and spreading the truth that has been denied us for way too long. Even Dr. Phil has been quoted as saying, common sense just isn't common anymore. Welcome to the Truth Denied Talk Radio. I'm your host today, Roxy Lopez. And joining me to add to the list of activists who has given up his life is the co-producer of the educational film in the making right now called The Great Culling. And without any further ado, I would like to please welcome Mr. Chris Maple. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm well, Roxy. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on the show with us. It's just an honor and a privilege.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on your show. So,
the feeling's mutual. Chris, why the Great Culling? Why did you get involved with this film? What happened? What is the course in your life that led you to this dedication?
Well, it's a pretty broad question, but it's a good one. And, I did a little work behind the scenes with Paul Wittenberger on his documentary, What in the World Are They Spraying? And once that film was completed, we both looked at each other and said, here we go again, Paul. What's with these metals? Once we realized what it was being released behind these planes. And at the same time, I was, looking into vaccinations on my own and just doing my own research and looking into the whole fluoride puzzle and again and again, metal contaminations seem to be the root of it all. And we looked at each other and I said, Paul, here it is. The air was the final frontier. And, as we know, our water has been contaminated for quite some time here in the United States. Back in 48, they began that program, and then the food with the genetically modified organisms. We saw that in the 60s, 70s, that sort of technology coming to the forefront, and here we are, the final frontier, the air. I said to Paul, look, here's the three main components that we need for life, deliberately being, contaminated, and I believe it's deliberate. I don't believe it's accidental, and that's kind of where we got going. We looked at each other and said, let's make a film about this. And at that time, I was ready to kind of come forward myself and be more of a figure, stepping up to the mic, I guess you could say, and that's basically where we got going. Paul did some great work on that film, and we just basically took it from there. Right. So this is like an extension of that, and in looking over some of your trailers, also we do have the latest trailer on our website, thetruthDenied.com, for anybody who wants to take a look at that. And of course, you have several other trailers. Now, tell me, what are you? I know you're a photographer by trade, Chris, and you out of LA, and the background that you have. I noticed that you were in criminal justice or something like that at one point, or studied. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. My background is like everybody else. Kind of not everybody else, I should say, but younger when I was in high school, and I was heavily into arts and advertising, and I was somewhat ill-advised by my high school guidance counselor on the whole commercial graphics and that sort of thing. What I wanted, I told him I had a really good eye for detail, and he's like, well, what else do you want to do? Because there's no money in advertising or marketing or any of that. And I said, I don't know, maybe FBI. I could see myself being an agent or something. And he had said, well, criminal justice is, and it sounded right. I really wasn't advised that well. But my junior year in college, I got ready to apply to the FBI, and they said, what is your degree in? And I said, criminal justice. And they said, nope. Sorry, any degree but criminal justice. So I got out of that whole field. I did not want to be a police officer. I couldn't see harassing people. And I'm saying that a lot of police do at all. I shouldn't say that, but I just didn't want to go down that road. And I ended up in the financial sector, and for a while I was there, and I knew, again, deep down, it wasn't what I wanted to do. I was more heavily, artistic growing up, and eventually left that field and moved, followed my heart and moved to California, where I always wanted to kind of be. Southern California. I visited when I was younger, and just kind of fell in love with the area. And I picked up a camera then. I had always kind of played with photography as a child and growing up, and kind of had a good eye for that. and I kind of relate that to my my artistic background growing up. So, once I got here, I just started playing with the cameras and taking headshots for various actors, and from there it turned into weddings, and I met my wife, and we started doing that together, and now we shoot weddings and babies. So right back to the arts where I originally wanted to be. So it's been quite a journey.
I bet. It's fulfilling, though, it sounds like. Hello? Okay. Okay,
it really is. It's a tangent. You got me?
Yes, you're back. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, you weren't there for a minute, but go ahead. Yeah, it's fulfilling, I was saying, and then you were making a comment, and we didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's an extremely tangible job. There's the reward is immediate. When you look down at with these digital cameras now, you can kind of see what you're doing, and so the reward is imminent, and it's immediate, especially with the clients, and just to be a part of people's special days, and especially with the newborns. And yeah, it's so nice. It's such a nice choice for us, and it works really well. We're able to work from home. It gives me the time to kind of dig into this other stuff that both you and myself and our audiences have been doing. So, yeah.
Yeah, and can't complain. Now, when you started, this is a big task, and believe me, I know. For anybody who doesn't know what it takes, the kind of research and interviews that are conducted during the course of a documentary, such as The Great Culling, it's quite a long road, and you guys have been working on this. Now, can we talk a little bit about that? Let's talk about, you talked about when you and Paul got together and decided to do the film. You've expanded just air. Obviously, you're talking about food. You're talking about water. You're talking about, and I like what you're also bringing into the film is solutions. You're also talking to people, doctors who can bring in some solutions to the problem, to the health issues, because it is in epidemic proportions at this point, and there is no doubt of that. That is not fear mongering. It's the absolute truth. It's epidemic proportions. So I like that you're bringing a solution into the whole aspect of your film. So I guess my next question would be, can we talk about some of the people you have invited and have filmed, on camera? Can we get a little sneak peek at what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I think, and I'd like to back up a little bit because you did ask, what was it that got you going? And yeah, a lot of it had to do with the results from What in the World Are They Spraying? But personally for myself, Roxy, it was the vaccination schedule. Because I really took a hard look at the whole autistic spectrum and the pandemic that's really going on today, neurologically, what's happening. Especially here in the United States. And that was my big focus personally, aside from the project. And what I found out was, we had a schedule of 10 shots up until 1983. And from 83, the schedule went from 10 to 36, I believe. And 3 years after, in 1986, there were so many injuries due to the vaccination injuries, due to the increase in the schedule, that the whole vaccination courts were implemented. And what that did was protect the manufacturers as opposed to look out for the injured. And it wasn't until 1988 that the whole Vaccine Injury Compensation Act was implemented, and then they started, compensating the injured. But typically, as it usually is today, with corporations being looked after, more so than the people. It was the manufacturers who were protected prior to the injured. And again, that schedule, 10 to 36, 3 years later, we see this huge influx of injured, and it really got to me. It's what really got me going. It's really what basically got me up, and saying to myself, they're going after our children. And it's what really what got me active was the number of children that I'm seeing injured, and whether it's deliberate or not, I don't know. I mean, you just got to look at the ingredients into some of these vaccinations and ask yourself, man, would I feel comfortable even drinking this? Never mind injecting it directly into the bloodstream of my child. So that's, I kind of wanted to put that out there first. But as far as the film itself, who do we have? Man, right now, we originally thought, Roxy, we were going to do this in a one film, 3 topics, well, 4 with the solutions that you mentioned, but our food, our air, our water. Once Paul and I, after, shooting for 12, 13, 14 months, gathering interviews from one end of the country to the next, it seemed, we sat down to edit and we said, man, this is, we've compiled quite a bit of information here, and it just didn't seem fair to try to whittle it down into 90 minutes because it only left less than 20 minutes per topic based on the solutions that we wanted to stress as well. So certainly wasn't going to do, anybody any amount of good to have so much of it being left on the editing room floor. So we decided to impart on a 3-part series. So our first film that we're very close to completing is The Great Culling, Our Water. And in this film, we took a hard look at what's been going on with the whole fluoridation controversy that's been pretty much ongoing since day one, since it was incepted here into this country in 1945. But we found ourselves down in San Diego because San Diego just recently lost the battle. They've been trying to keep it out for 60 years. And 2011, they that community lost the fluoridation battle. And who's heading that up is Dr. David Kennedy. He's an amazing guy, and he was a former president of the...
We'll talk more about Dr. Kennedy right when we get back from the break, for sure. We're talking with Chris Maple, the co-producer of the film The Great Culling. You're listening to The Truth Tonight Talk Radio, and we'll be right back.
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American.
It's practically narcotics.
Freedom.
Oh, yes. I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
This song is for my producer, Adam. That's so Adam. Thank you, Adam. Thanks, American Freedom Radio. For those of you who are just joining us, we're speaking with Chris Maple, the co-producer of The Great Culling. And Chris, you were just starting to talk about Dr. Kennedy in San Diego.
Yeah, what a great guy, man. He's been battling for quite some time against the, exposing fluoride for what it really is. And, he's a past president of the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. This guy spoke, in front of the World Health Organization and travels around the world, basically. He lectures everywhere, and he's just a great guy. He's been very helpful. He's actually lent us his fluoride tester. And what it is it's a portable fluoride, an electrode type setup that you can basically test anything with water in it, with any form of liquid. So we had some fun with that, testing all the different various bottled waters, and even milk. And I tested my wife's breast milk and just everything we could get our hands on, just to find out what the fluoride levels are, and it's pretty alarming because it's in everything, and that's it was probably the biggest eye opener and more.
When you say that, Chris, what do you mean it's in everything? Can you give us a little bit more on that?
Yeah, they're trying to fluoridate our community water with 0.7 parts per million is the ideal. It was at 1 part per million. Just so the audience knows what that level is on your toothpaste. Any fluoridated toothpaste, the serving size is a pea-size amount. That pea-size amount is 1 part per million fluoride in that pea-size amount. If a child should swallow that pea-size amount, they should be, rushed to the emergency room, they say. On the back of the boxes, it states that, caution, contact poison control if a child swallows more than the recommended dosage, that sort of thing. So our tap water now is has been fluoridated at 1 part per million. So that is 1 part per million per liter of water. So we're not supposed to swallow in toothpaste, but it's okay for us to drink it. What we're finding is that bottled waters, a lot of people say, well, not too many people will drink their tap water without some type of filtration process, whether it be through a Brita or even an over-the-counter or under-the-counter type system. None of these remove fluoride. Fluoride's extremely difficult to get out of water. Really, the only true way to get it completely out is to turn it off at the source, and that's not having it dumped in. And that's a political power you need to do that. Every bottled water source that we've tested has it. Every milk, whether it's organic, the juices. The problem is the best systems to remove it or to get as much of it out as you can is the reverse osmosis systems. That brings it down to maybe a 0.2 parts per million or 0.1 even. But even what we're learning through Dr. Kennedy and the various experts that we've spoken to, there is no safe levels of fluoride that we should be ingesting.
Okay, and that brings up something I would like to ask. One which is, why are they adding it to the water? And then, of course, I'd like to ask you, what are the side effects that happen to people? So let's go into why is fluoride being added into the water? What does Dr. Kennedy say about that? What have you guys come up with as to why it's being added to the water?
Well, why? What we're told publicly, or what the real reason is?
Well, what are you told publicly? That would be a good place to start. And then what do you come up with why the real reason might be?
Right. Well, basically, it's added to our water for the benefit of our teeth. They're trying to reduce tooth decay. That's basically how it's sold to us. And that's pretty much.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's it. Well, you remember when you're a child, and if you ever had fluoride treatments in the dentist office when you were a kid. I remember mine, and it was a goop that they made us bite down into in the mouthpiece. And all I can remember is the nurse coming, the assistant coming in every 2 minutes. Don't swallow that. Don't. And they had the little sucker in there that sucked all the saliva, just in case you swallowed a little bit of it. But yet it's okay for us to drink it when it's in our water. So it's kind of an oxymoron if you think about it, but. We're really not supposed to be ingesting it. If anything, it's supposed to be topically applied to our teeth. And as you know, the majority of the water coming into your house, how much of it is being rinsed over your teeth, really? I mean, we consume a good amount of it showering with it.
Who is putting the fluoride in the water, do you know?
It's the water company, the water treatment centers, that are putting it in. It's really, they're being pressured from the states. What we're finding out, but really, what it is, it's not the fluoride that you think it is. Fluoride builds up in calcium-enriched tissues. So one of the most outward ways of showing that fluoride is being, we're getting too much of it is a disease called dental fluorosis, basically. And, according to the CDC, 40-something% of children between the ages of, 6 and 14 or something have dental fluorosis. And what that is, Roxy, is the white spots you see, kind of chalky spots on the teeth.
Yes.
And, a lot of people do have that, and that's basically an overexposure to fluoride. So somebody's ingesting too much of it. And see, what's happening is it does build up in our bones, what we're finding, and that it makes them brittle. Now, I can understand where people think that, all right, it's making the bones denser, because it is, but our bones weren't meant to be dense. They were meant to have these, honeycomb kind of compartments where they can flex and have some tensile strength. What's happening with dental fluorosis is it's building up in the teeth. The teeth are becoming brittle. They break apart, they chip easy, that sort of thing, and it's great industry for the dental community, because now the carpenters come in and they fix the holes.
So this is irony, isn't it? Because they publicly the plants and that clean the water, supposedly, that add the fluoride, are publicly expressing that it's to reduce tooth decay, yet it causes the breakdown of your teeth. So it's the complete opposite that it's supposedly going to be able to do. And I did watch a trailer. As a matter of fact, we used to have that one on our website in regards to fluoride. And I thought it was, I had to watch it a few times because I just thought, get out of here, everything that you're saying. Now, are there any other symptoms? I mean, is fluoride a poison?
Yes, it is. It's highly poisonous. It's the substance of fluoride is technically the fluoride ion. It's a gas, and in nature, it's found bonded with other substance and forming compounds and such as calcium fluoride, that sort of thing. But it's pretty darn toxic. For instance, one thing we found is, you eat fruit, vegetables, that sort of thing. The first thing you do before you eat it is typically you wash it off. And what we found is what you're washing off is the fluoride ion in the pesticide. So you're basically, that's the toxic thing that kills the insects when they spray them, because it's used in bug spray, it was used in rat poison. It's just the product itself, what it is hydrofluorosilicic acid. And where we're getting it from now is mostly China. And what it is, Roxy, is the phosphate mining industry is probably one of the biggest polluters right now of fluoride. They can't dump it in rivers, their byproduct. They can't dump it in the ocean. They can't afford to. It's just too costly. So what they're doing is they're packaging it. Back in the day, they just used to let all the gases escape out of the plants, and it was just decimating farms and crops and killing everything in its path. So now they have these wet scrubbers in the phosphate mining industry that are designed to capture the gases, and they do. But what they're left with is this slurry mix, and it's highly toxic. I mean, just to transport the hydrofluorosilicic acid, you need to wear hazmat suits. You can't handle it. You stick your hand in it, it'll kill you. There's a skull and bones right on the side of the bag, poison label all over it. It blows me away to think that this stuff is being dumped directly into our water supply.
Now, what's the excuse on that note that, Dr. Kennedy had obviously some luck in San Diego for many, many, many years of not getting this fluoride treatment put into the water. What caused him to lose the fight? What caused San Diego to lose that fight? You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, well, what we're finding out is just not a lot of people are getting involved, And one thing I tell folks is, if none of this bothers you, you can thank the fluoride in your drinking water because it is a drug. In addition to being poisonous, it's a pretty major component of the pharmaceutical industry. It's a pretty big makeup of a lot of these psychedelic drugs you see out there. I personally, what we've found out is that the penalties are coming down from the state level. That's what the head of the water department supply down there in San Diego had mentioned in an interview that, hey, it wasn't us. We didn't want it in, but we were going to be fined heavily by the state if we didn't. So it's just kind of like the whole vaccine thing. What we learned there was the penalties come from the state. That's why the supposedly mandatory vaccinations, it's really coming from the federal level. The schools will lose federal funding if 90% of the kids aren't vaccinated. Even though it's not supposed to be, it's not mandatory right yet, they'll tell you it is. And it's just kind of trickling over into the whole fluoride issue. We have communities left and right, pulling it out of their water supplies this year, but yet we have other communities and cities still adding it. It's still kind of like a seesaw thing. Somebody will remove it, somebody adds it over here, and what we're finding out is the pressure's coming from the state level.
Okay. Now, to get that clear, you said something about the federal government. So are the feds leaning on the states, and then the states are leaning on the municipalities? Is that what's happening?
I would imagine so.
Okay.
I would imagine so.
So to fight the good fight, you'd have to go all the way up to the feds, I guess.
Right. Well, the problem is that everybody washes their hands of it. It's not regulated by the FDA, the EPA, or the CDC.
Is anything?
They're all pointing at the other guy. It's not my concern. I don't regulate it. It's not me. They're grant. It's just so shady once you start really looking at it. How
I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do know. I do understand, and I think a lot of the listeners do as well. It's really, like I always say this, that unless the public gets involved, and I hear it again and again and again on all the radio shows, all the documentaries, it always has a piece that says if the public does not take this into their own hands and start exposing these truths and getting into the face of these government morons, whoever's passing these ridiculous laws, and corporations, unless we do that, it will just continue and continue. So what you said earlier makes a lot of sense. Why did it get stuck in San Diego now? Because there isn't enough public awareness, and the public's not opposing it. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's very unfortunate. Is that your dog in the background?
Yeah, did you hear him?
Yeah, I did. He's even letting us know that it ain't cool.
Sorry about that.
He's totally welcome. We have a lot of people, a lot of guests that have their dog in the background. Just when they get onto a certain part of the subject, I'm not kidding you, the dog will just start barking. We say welcome because they know too. So when you find out, when you've gone down the proverbial rabbit hole with this, and it's taking you some years to do that, do you feel overwhelmed by the evidence that comes up to your face? Because once you have all of these individuals that you're, interviewing and getting results and testing, and then you're obviously like somebody like Dr. Kennedy, who's had years of experience with this. They're lending you their research, their data. What are you going to do about it? Because number one, it's pretty obvious. That's what brought you to making a film, to expose it the best way you know how. So that's a cool idea. And then number two is you're obviously interviewing doctors in the field that can help with this, with the symptoms and what's associated with it. And then anything else? Have you tried to go through the government channels as well? Have you done any of that yet?
We haven't yet. No,
Okay.
We really haven't. I mean, everyone we've interviewed, it's almost like just beating their head up against the wall as far as what happens on the federal level when you go to the FDA or the EPA, the CDC. They just they have you chasing your tail. It's kind of like they're not going to change it. There's nothing that you're going to do to change their mind on any of this stuff. And, unfortunately, I don't think most people really look into it, even on the political level. But it's going to take a political push, really. And what it is it's going to come down to, the commoner out there just having the courage to first remove the blinders, Roxy?
I do. I absolutely do. When we come back, the call line is starting to pile up already, and I haven't even announced the phone number to call in. But when we get back, we'll take some calls, and then we will continue. Our guest today is Chris Maple, co-producer of The Great Culling. Oh, yeah. And that's the truth for activisms. We're not going to stop until it's done. We're not going to stop until this is over, till the game is over. We're not going to stop until they stop spraying us. We're not going to stop until we can get Monsanto out of the picture and get agriculture back the way it was. We're not going to stop until they take this crap out of our water. We're just not going to stop. Isn't that right, Chris?
Absolutely. I hope not,
We were just talking on the break, Chris and I, about, where does this all go for all of us? We're covering so many fields of concern in the removal of our rights as sovereign spiritual beings on this planet. Our rights are just, we have the right to clean air, clean water, words, relationships, religion, freedom of speech, all the rest of it. They've really chiseled away chipped away, if you will, at all of those rights. And the biggest one to me is our mind. And I want our minds to be free, because once we see what is really going on, the fear, I think, should go down and the level of awareness goes up, and then there'll be a tipping point and it'll be all over. So, I really want to thank you for your work, what you and Paul are doing, because it's just one more leg to this big octopus that we're building. They've got a big octopus that's reached every area of our lives, and we're gonna fight back on this, and we're not gonna let this happen. So back to the fluoride. So how long did you spend with fluoride? Is that your first film? The whole film's going to be about fluoride?
Yeah, the first film is The Great Culling Our Water. So that's part one. And that's been our focus as of late, because, once we, as I mentioned, we sat down to edit the 3 and realized we had way too much. Let's break them up into a 3-part series, and we're focusing on the fluoride issue first, because it hits close to us with what's been going on in San Diego, so our neighbor, so we had our hands kind of right in on that with Dr. Kennedy, and we had some great people too that we've interviewed. We've got a gentleman by the name of Gary O. Pittman. He's a former phosphate mining supervisor, and he was exposed to the toxic substance fluoride while working at his company, Occidental Chemical Corporation. And the reason why I say the name is because he wrote a book about it called Phosphate Fluorides, Toxic Torts. And he had a 7-year battle with this company. And hello, Rocky.
Hello, yeah, I'm here. Yeah,
Okay.
You had just cut out, but go ahead. He had you were saying something about a 7-year battle?
Yeah, with Gary O. Pittman. I mean, he...
Okay, you're cutting out again. I don't know if the audience can hear you, and maybe it's just me that can't hear you. I'm not sure what's going on.
I can hear you loud and clear, Roxy. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Hello.
Okay, now I can hear you now. Hey, Chris, we've got some callers on the line, so I'm going to bring on a caller here if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, great. Let's see. We have Sid from Kentucky. Sid, you're on the air live with Roxy Lopez and Chris Maple. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good evening, Roxy, and hi, Chris.
Hello.
Hey, Guy. I was sitting here listening, and I was thinking to myself, how in the world are you going to be able to do the culling in 2 hours when water takes up more than that time? I didn't realize.
No, you're right. It's we seriously need a 3-part series on each topic. There's just so much. It's sad to how much we actually have to cut out. But you're absolutely right.
Actually, what you need, Chris, is like a 4-hour round table with all the experts sitting around mulling over the topic with callers intermingled. But that's just my own personal opinion. I do have some questions for you, though.
Sure.
Hey, look. On the topic of water and what you've got a very smart crowd that listens to this radio station, and I imagine a lot of the radio stations that you probably talk to. So I'll get to what my question is about the water that we can put in our bodies and get away from what they want us to put into our bodies. Personally, I've been putting DI into my body and been seeing a lot of benefits. And I've been doing some other things to my water as well.
Okay, great. Anything works. I mean, it starts at home. It really does. One thing we found out, Sid, is distilled water has the lowest traces of fluoride in it that we were able to find. Even though, the mineral content isn't there, you can make it up in your diet.
Yeah, actually, Chris, I was talking about deionized water.
Yeah, deionized, right. Mm-hmm.
And
so that's been working out for you good.
It's working out well. I'm also adding 20 drops of food-grade hydrogen peroxide to all my drinking water.
Oh, good. Great.
Yeah, I've got friends that are adding 50 drops of 8%. I'm adding 20 drops right now. I don't even notice a taste to it. It doesn't bother me a bit. But my skin is softer, and, oh, God, I'm going to do a commercial, aren't I?
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm 60 years old, and I'm seriously seeing big changes in my skin.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the big things too is try to get a system on your house too, because bathing in it is our biggest consumption at home anyway.
I have a whole house water filter. I did that a long time ago.
Good for you. Good for you.
But I live in a community that got rid of fluoride. Actually, my latest water results, that they put out. State that we have nothing but naturally occurring fluoride, which I still have a whole house filter. I don't care.
Good. It's great.
Yeah, well, they can tell you anything they want, Chris. We're all responsible. We all have to take it personally.
Yeah. Yeah,
we all got to take it.
That's good. That's a good idea, Sid. And in relationship to the things that you've done for your own health, I think that would be the point of a film like this, so that people can recognize how they are being poisoned, and then go ahead and take on a personal attempt to. Stay alive, and clean it up in their own bodies and their own houses. And as Chris was mentioning earlier, the RO system, the reverse osmosis system, were you saying, Chris, was the best you can get?
Yeah, it doesn't remove all of it. Again, there are small traces, but it's a great start. It's something I would highly recommend.
And Sid, is that what you're using?
Yes, I have a whole house, so no, I don't use RO. But like I said, I'm not really fighting fluoride. I'm fighting heavy metals here, because the fluoride is just the beginning. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, I would like to just close by saying this, Chris. I was subjected to 3 series of the hepatitis B vaccine as a worker in surgery. Uh-huh. And next time you're on, I sure would like to talk to you, my friend.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, you could. I'd like to direct you to our website if you don't mind, because that's part 2 of our series, Sid. The Great Culling, our food and vaccinations will be covered in that very heavily, actually. So you can look us up, Sid, at thegreatculling.org. And we have a contact page there. Please send me an email. I'd love to talk to you.
I will. I've got some things I've done because I took responsibility for my own health. You know what I mean? So I'll talk to you. And Roxy, thank you so much for this really good guest.
Oh, absolutely. You're very welcome, Sid. Thanks for calling in. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Sid.
Bye-bye now. There are such wonderful people out there. Okay, so, and by the way, if any of you want to call and ask Chris any questions, the number is 218-339-8525. And look, last week I know a few of you wrote in some questions, and then you said you're too afraid to come on the air. You get too embarrassed. Now listen, you've got to get over that. You've got to get over that. We're not going to bite you. It's 218-339-8525. And, you're making history when you call this show. All of these shows get archived on The Truth Denied and on YouTube and on American Freedom Radio, and they don't go away. So be a part of history that you were there. You were part of this, okay? So anyway, enough of that. So, when we come back from the break, because it looks like we're going to be going into a break. When we come back from the break, I want to talk about what you guys need to complete these films, because I know they're expensive to do. So when we come back, let's have our callers call in, and let's talk about the needs of finishing up the film. You're listening to The Truth Denied Talk Radio. I'm Roxy Lopez. Don't turn that dial. And our guest today is Chris Maple, the co-producer of a great film that's coming out, Part 1, The Great Culling, Our Water. And by the way, that song that was Peter Frampton coming in from the break, that reminds me of a time where, people would not tolerate. I mean, the 60s and the 70s were revolutionary, and people did not tolerate the Vietnamese War. They did not tolerate certain injustices that were going on. And we need to get that unity back with our public and that connection with our public again. Really, seriously, we don't have to like everybody. It's just, we just have to start to sort of come under one umbrella of, we're all being screwed. What can I say? Really, we are. And so if we could just come together and unify under that one note, we don't have to like everybody, but man, we should really thou protestest. So, Chris, welcome back. We've got a caller on the air, so I did promise the callers that we'd be taking some of the calls throughout the course of the show. So let's do that and take another caller. Caller, you're live on the air with Chris Maple from The Great Culling. Welcome.
Thank you. I was just wondering if he could speak about the trace prescription drugs that is in all of the water now. At least I have that here in the Great Lakes. They found very high levels of prescription drugs in our water. And what I wondered is, does reverse osmosis remove that?
From what I know, it's probably one of the best systems out there, but it is with I've been focusing solely on the fluoride, and I know that the ion is so small it portions of it do pass. But I have touched a little bit on the prescription drugs and the contaminants there, and I know all our waterways and everything's loaded with it. As it passes through us, it passes right into the waterways. But unfortunately, our film doesn't really emphasize any of that. Or that's a whole new documentary in itself.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. Thanks for listening. Now, with that idea, she did bring up a really good point. You're more focused on what's being put in the water purposely. I think what she was bringing up with these are the side effects. People who flush down the toilet prescription drugs and everything like that from whatever they're on. And I do know in certain counties, I can speak on this, that they do not allow you to do that. They ask you not to flush any kind of drug or such down the toilet. Or put them in the garbage, be really responsible for it. And for anybody who does want to know, if you have prescription drugs and they're just something that's sitting in your medicine cabinet and you don't want them because you have a new child in the house or whatever, all you have to do is you take it and you empty it out and you put it in coffee beans, wrap that up in plastic, then put that in another bag, and then put that bag into a garbage bag, that bag into the garbage, so that way even pets and animals that are out in the street that knock over the garbage can don't find it. The coffee beans will actually disintegrate the drug and everything like that. But somebody's probably going to get on me for saying that too. But that's the best solution I have for that at this moment. So back to the film and the elaboration that you're going into doing parts 1, part 2, part 3. Obviously, water, air, and food. When are we going to see the release of the first one? And what do you need to get this done? What besides time? Obviously, you have so much time. But what can we do? What can the public do to help and strengthen, get behind you for this film?
That's a great question, and it's actually one of the major hindrances of our journey. Is I think our title is a little disturbing to some, so we haven't had the backing that we would like to have seen. And one thing we really need, Roxy, is the answer to 9 out of 10 questions, and that's money. Paul and I are doing this solely out of our own pocket. And we each have full-time jobs and to fund the film, and that kind of takes away from it too, because we do need to work to support the film. So it's kind of a catch-22. We have brought in some low-paying interns that are just helping with editing. Finally, we're able to bring some help in. We've had some donations, and it was barely enough to back up the 64 terabytes that we've shot already. So one thing we need help. We need funds. We need donations. We're looking for funding partners. If anybody wants to, even a $200 donation. I know it kind of sounds a lot, but even anything will count. But we'd be able to give you give you a copy of the DVD at that level, list you as a funding partner in our credits, and put you on our website as well. But if we had a little bit more money, we could knock this thing out immediately. And we're hoping once we get part 1 done, which we will, we'll be able to, with the capital we raise from that film, just pop out parts 2 and 3 pretty quickly. So
Oh, okay. Because you do have, like you said, 64 terabytes or something.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff. And now, if people would like to contribute, do they go to thegreatculling.org or do they go to Framing the World?
You can go to either or. You can go, we would rather have people just because they both link you to the same place. So thegreatculling.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a donations button or help us button there. You can just click on that, or I believe right on the splash page. It's an archaic website just because we don't have a lot of money and we just had to put something up to get going. And again,
and you know what I do like though? No, I think your site's great. If people would take a look at some of your trailers, and again, we do have one of them on the truthdenied.com on the homepage, but the footage that you're shooting is unreal. It's clean. Whoever's behind the cameras here, the color, everything is just absolutely fantastic. I mean, top notch. So I can understand why you're saying, we're not making some, you're definitely not making a dumpy flick. I mean, it's going to be, this is something that someone would see on the History Channel or Discovery Channel. I mean, it's top notch.
Thank you for that, and Paul would be very happy to hear that. That's kind of where my photography skill comes in because, my wife and I shoot, and we kind of have that photography, that we're using our photography cameras. They're HD cameras. They're very, very nice cameras, and so we're kind of putting, my photography skills, that coupled with Paul's directing and lighting skills together. So it's aesthetically, it's really pretty, and it's really, the quality is, Paul's major thing, and, he wasn't too happy with the quality of What in the World, and this thing just is, blows anything that we know of right now out of the water.
And that's great for a second film for Paul, a second documentary that he wanted to step it up, and that would be a natural course of things, I imagine, of course. And, I want to also say something to my audience right now. Listen, people, when there are those like Chris and Paul who have put their livelihood on the line here, the amount of money, and I know this because I come out of the entertainment business myself, Chris, when you're putting together something of this sort of, a product of this nature, all the traveling that you do and the research that goes into it of who you're going to interview. It's not like you can just get off a plane and put a mic in front of people. Yeah. I mean, you're researching all of these individuals and making sure that that this is somebody that's going to be giving the right information to the public because it's your name on this film, and you take great pride in that and a responsibility for that. That's number one. Number two is we completely understand the amount of money and the small budget that you're really using to put out a big budget film. So I really would like it if people could, help us out here or help you out here, Can
you hear me, Roxy?
I can.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're absolutely right with the budget. I mean, it was all new to me. Again, I'm not a filmmaker. I shoot weddings and Paul's the filmmaker, so when we got involved in this, I was really blown away with the extent and how in depth these films really are, and what the cost is. I mean, this isn't just something you're going to throw up on YouTube, and I just thought, wow, isn't it just a simple cut and paste and cut this together? No, it is not. Our post sound bill that we have coming up is $9,000, and that's just one. This is one of many bills. That's our biggest one. We need that done. We're finishing this edit. We're actually doing a pre-screening in a couple of weeks in Los Angeles. Just a few friends and our editors that we brought on and a close niche group just to kind of get some ideas on the film. But once that's completed, it goes off to this post-sound, and that takes almost a month, 3 weeks to a month for the post-sound production to be done, completed on a film like this. And that's almost $10,000 right there, and we don't have it. I mean,
right.
We don't know what we're doing. We're jumping through. I'm draining everything. I got a 30-day-old at home here. I got a new baby crying in the background.
A little angel. Welcome to your new child. Okay, we're cutting out again, Chris. I lost Chris again. But anyway, for those of you who are just joining us, we are speaking with Chris Maple, the co-producer of there you are, of the Great Culling. Yeah, you slip out somewhere here and there, so we'll just go with it. It's okay. I'm beginning to wonder why that's happening, because we really have straightened that out on this end. I don't know. Now I'm beginning to wonder why. So in effort, again, you obviously had some substantial donations, and that's good, and you need to continue to get those donations. And I'll think of some ways that we might be able to help. Maybe we can help through the Truth Tonight website at some point to raise more funds for you and everything. And I'm sure that people want to see. I know there's a huge interest in your film. I mean, I have people write for months and months about this film. So I know there's a huge interest. It's just a matter of time, and I think that you will get everything that you need.
I think it'll all fall into place as it should. It might have taken us a little longer. I know with Paul's last film, they made one phone call and had $100,000 donated in 24 hours. That certainly wasn't the case with this film. It's a completely different production company. We didn't have the backing that we thought we were gonna, but it's okay. We're doing it. It's getting done. We'll have a nice, beautiful, tangible product for everybody, and we just want everybody to share it and just get the word out there, because we got to catch up with Europe. They're 98% fluoride free, and we're heading in the other direction. What's the problem there?
Is that something? Is that right? Now, how did Europe get to the place of 98% free?
It's not even just Europe. They just don't.
Other countries.
We've got. Let's just look at it. There's Austria, Belgium, China, Japan. They've banned it. The Czech Republic, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, India, Israel, Netherlands, North Ireland, Norway, Scotland, Sweden. I mean, it goes on and on. I mean, we've had, I don't know how many communities last year, and just in the United States, New York's talking about getting rid of it. So don't be fooled, all right, folks, by, the mainstream science out there, because obviously they're for sale too, by telling you there's no controversy here. Science is on the side of fluoridation. We hear that over and over. Well, answer me this. Why is everybody banning it?
Right.
Why?
Yeah, you do have to ask that question. If there's nothing wrong with it, why are they banning it? And public pressure does cause to ban certain things. I mean, that's just the way it goes. Now, I've got another question for you. Can we talk a little bit about the other parts that you're doing too, like anything to do with the air? And we did spend a lot of time on the water part, because that's the first one that we're going to, you're going to be releasing. And the next one is going to be which one? The air?
The air is part 3, so the food and vaccinations film will be part 2.
Okay, I gotcha. Food and vaccination. And now, what are you going to be covering? I can just imagine, but what are you going to be covering for food and vaccines?
We're looking into the whole GMO phenomena with the food and the effects that all these these terrible products on the market are how they're affecting us. What we're finding is that these heavy metals, mercury is being found in genetically modified organisms. We're looking at how these GMO products are, the animal tests are showing that the animals are, going sterile, and it's just on and on with the food itself. And then again, we're gonna look deep into the whole vaccination schedule. As I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, we've got people such as Mary Tocco and who's a huge vaccination exposer out there. She's been working for years on trying to bring some light to that whole situation. We're just kind of go into the whole gene splicing that takes place within GMOs, how they're not labeled and how they should be, and basically the science behind it, and where the FDA fits in, and again, it all just stinks to high heck, if you just like the water.
I have somebody that is with a group called ISAAct.org, and they just wrote in from Denmark, and they're saying that he just looked it up for government, And because of the health concerns and risks, that's why it was banned in Denmark. So Denmark actually listened to their people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's we have a call. We have another. We've quite a few callers, but I'm going to take a call for you. Is that all right?
Please.
Okay, great. Hi, caller. You're calling from 320 area code. Welcome to the show. We're speaking with Chris Meeple of the Great Culling.
Yeah, hello. This is Will.
Hello.
Yeah, I was wondering. Hi. I was just wondering if Chris, in your research, have found any of the radiation in the water because of all the nuclear detonation in the fracking industry.
Yes, that has come up. We definitely have. It's again, it isn't anything. We touch on it. I know that Dr. Kennedy touches on that a little bit, along with Jeff Green. So we do touch on it, but we don't get into it. And that's another film in itself. The whole fracking.
Hey, Will, if you want to hold on through the break, if you have any more questions for Chris, we'll take them after the break. You're listening to the Truth Tonight Talk Radio. I'm Roxy Lopez. We'll be right back. Don't turn that dial. You're listening to The Truth Tonight. I'm Roxy Lopez, and we are talking to co-producer of The Great Culling, Chris Meeple. And caller, do we still have you on the line? Did you hold through?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, you're still here. Okay, great. So I didn't want to just leave you hanging there, Will. Did you have anything more that you wanted to add to what you were saying? Because, Chris did acknowledge, they do know about the fracking and the radiated water and so forth, but the film just isn't, there's not enough time with all the research they've already done to put that in the film, so I can understand that. Do you think that that's another huge contributor besides fluoride, caller?
Oh, I believe, especially where there's a lot of fracking, because they're using a lot of nuclear radioactive explosives to do the fracking, and of course that's got to be coming into the water.
Yeah, I agree. I can't agree with you more. We've seen the footage of the fire water, right, where people are actually able to ignite their tap water. It's just amazing, and supposedly natural gas is the new way to go, right?
Well, right. I mean, that's insidious to even allow the gases to escape into the water. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just horrible.
Yeah, just carelessness. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just have a hard time swallowing the pill that, oops, we didn't mean to do that. I don't know. It's just, how do you not know these industries? What it is they're doing. Why is it up to you and I to point it out? Where are our regulatory agencies? Why aren't they doing the jobs they're supposed to be doing? Who's looking out for us?
Nobody is. I believe we have to look out for ourselves, because the financial reward for the industry has blinded and subverted the whole thing. It's all about money now. It's not about the people anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, here. I mean, it's you hit it right on the head.
So I just compliment.
Go ahead.
I just compliment you, Chris, on your bringing this stuff out into the public, at least bringing the awareness, and appreciate it all. I hope others can start to benefit, to share your information, to help wake up the masses. That's for sure.
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot, and it's really kind of gives me the goosebumps to hear you say that, because sometimes I wonder, what am I doing? But it's a big undertaking. It's a new hat for me, but it's just I can't sit still with it anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know. I've been helping people wake up in the health industry, and it's a challenge. We've got generational conditioning and breeding, if you will, to not see what's really going on.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I appreciate the call, and thank you so much for calling, and you have a nice weekend, caller.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you. And see, that's just one more, good vibe, you know what I mean, to let you know, you just said something really important. the idea of getting behind a film and you start and then you ask yourself the question, what am I doing? I want you to know we all go through that. When I first started doing what I'm doing, I got so much crap in my face all the time. And seriously, I made mistakes. Some of them, and the public, know some of them, and I made mistakes and I didn't do it exactly right, but I did it. Whatever I could do. I didn't know what I was doing in radio. I've never been a host before, but hey, let's do it. Someone asked, let's go, let's rock and roll. My point is that I quit once a month back then. I just say, I'm done. I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. People are too stupid. Blah, 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 blah. They're not listening. I put information in front of them. They're not listening. I have something that I want to share with you and the audience. Not only are people listening, I have seen a huge turnaround in awareness in the past 2 years. Huge. And that, my friend, it should be encouraging. And how is it happening? It's happening because of people like you, Chris, and people like Paul, and all the rest of the people out there who are, whether they're doing flyers, whether they're going to city council meetings, whether they're in Occupy USA or the global Occupy now, the global revolution, which I call part of the evolution, there are those who think this is the end game now, and so they're just giving up their entire life to push this, forward. I am sorry, I've never seen so many activists in my life.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and that's what it's going to take. I mean, that's what we need. We're going to, like I said, what the last caller was just saying, it's unfortunately it is up to us. It's not going to, we can't leave this in the hands of the minions that have put us in this position to begin with, because they're not looking out for us. There's no doubt that they're not looking out for us.
Right. They're not looking out for us. Well, and this is the truth. Even though, like what you had mentioned, that we have all these regulatory services, employed. You see, what we need to realize, especially in the United States right now, we need to realize, Chris, and you know this already, and maybe the audience knows this. We need to realize that this government is run amok. I mean, it's a train wreck. It is a rogue government. It has been taken over by the corporations and all the rest of it. And we, the people, these people work for us. We hire these people. They work for us, not the other way around. The EPA works for us. The FDA works for us. All the way up to the commander-in-chief, they work for us. And the people of this country in particular need to wrap their mind around that every time you vote, you just hired another one of these individuals. They are no longer speaking for us. And as the caller had said, and all the other callers and all the other people that are chatting in right now, they are separate from us now. There are very few people that are left in government, and anybody that's any good in government, a good person in government, what they do is they threaten them too. So, it is up to us. And back to your film, it's very important that you continue to do the research that you're doing and continue to do the editing, and just know that you are supported, that people will back you when the money will continue to come in, your film will get released, you will also help a lot of people. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, and that's all our hope is. It's just too important. I think right now, Roxy, it's more crucial than it ever has been. I think we're kind of in fast forward mode right now with the acceleration of the police state, what's going on around us, and like I said, you really kind of got to take the blinders off and step outside of mainstream media and get on shows such as yours and all these other various alternative sources out there, and have the courage, do your own homework, and you don't necessarily have to get out there and make a documentary to bring about change. You don't have to get on your soapbox and scream at the corner, and what you do need, though, and I stress this to everybody, is you just got to have courage personally to remove the blinders first. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Take a few minutes each day and do some homework, do your own research, and please don't let the truth scare you back into submission. This truth, and it's kind of what I call myself, just a truth seeker. It wasn't just my journey wasn't just about heavy metal toxicity, Roxy. This was something that kind of perked up to me, and when as I mentioned, what I heard when I realized the children were being attacked, I guess you could say, with this whole vaccination increase, and now it's 64 vaccines today or something like that, from 36 to 64. So it's what got me going. But once you gather this knowledge, you're going to be able to arm yourself with the knowledge to be able to make accurate decisions, to lessen your exposure. And I can guarantee the audience that it will eventually enlighten them. Might be a little frightening at first, but that darkness will fade. And just like your Sid who called earlier with her home reverse osmosis system, she's taking steps she says her skin looks great. And one of the risks and health factors of fluoride is it increases aging. And so if that doesn't get the women audience going,
it gives you wrinkles.
And you know what? It's horrible for your pets. So if, a lot of us have little animals out there and pets that we love and adore like I do, and they're more susceptible to the poisoning because they drink it all day long, and it builds up into their systems. They're small by nature, and the smaller people and animals are the more at risk here. That's why kids, and that's why the ADA, recently stated that fluoride is no longer recommended for children, but you still can find fluoridated baby water in CVS and all these other stores. So it's like, there's your oxymoron right there. There's the kicker.
Yeah, it seems like it's what it appeared to me is for many years, which is they're telling us one thing and doing another. Don't do as I say. Don't do as I say, just do as I do, which is, complete tyranny. If you want to know, they are lying. They are not doing their job. Their hands are tied in some cases. And when I say that, I mean the EPA, the FDA, the AMA. I mean, it's ridiculous. The AMA just recently, they're in California where you are. There's, all the people, all the coalitions wanted to do with GMO relationships to GMOs was just get something on the ballot that said the FDA had to label foods that were GMO. That's it. Can you just label the foods so that the public knows which ones they want? That way the public chooses. And they had the nerve to turn around, and the AMA said, we did 300 studies and there's nothing wrong with GMOs. And then the FDA, if we put this on the ballot, the vote won't even be allowed to go to the people, just to put it on the ballot for the people to vote if they want labeling or not. So they are so afraid of having labeling that what they did is they just said, look, we decided this is the AMA. This is our AMA, the board of directors for the AMA people. They actually said, if we label GMO foods, it's going to confuse the public.
Knowledge will confuse, yes.
Well, because it will confuse them, and they'll think something's wrong with GMO food, and then they won't buy it. Hello? No, we just want labeling for those of us who do. Since they know the public's uneducated about GMOs, no worries, right? Stick up sticker. This is GMOs. No one will know what it means anyway, right?
Right.
They're so afraid that the awareness is going to get so big that eventually, maybe even just a year from now, you talked about the fast forward train. Maybe a year from now, Chris, people will actually know what GMO means and they won't buy it.
Hopefully, I know.
Well, but I'm saying that's why they won't even put it on the labeling. They won't even allow the labeling to happen. And I'm sorry, we label everything in this country. We fought to label all kinds of stuff in food and ingredients, down to the, pick up a canned good and read the back of it. I mean, they put everything on this stuff now. So why can't we put GMO or genetically modified corn syrup or why can't we put, genetically modified or genetically engineered produce? What's wrong with that? And then are you going to be covering some of that in your food and vaccine portion?
we're all over that stuff, and that example there is just a perfect example of politics looking out for industry and not doing their job as politicians. It's just sickening, man. It just makes me sick, literally.
I understand. It's kind of scary too, because it's like when you do go shopping and you go, God, I wonder if that's a genetically modified head of lettuce.
Yeah, right.
You got to wonder. And, I got to tell you something that happened to me. I was at the supermarket. I was looking at all this produce, and I swear to God, on the left-hand side of me were rows and rows of organics. And on the right of me, okay, I'm standing in the middle of the two. On the right was, rows and rows of, I don't know what it was. All I can say is that on the left-hand side, the zucchini and the summer squashes looked normal in size, and when I looked to the right of me, the zucchini and squash were triple the size of the organic zucchini and squash. And I don't know if you can hear me, but I just heard you cut out. So are you there, Chris? Hello.
Yes,
oh, you're back. Okay, I don't know if you heard what I said, but I heard you cut out as if you just disappeared. But do you understand what I'm saying? And I really looked at the right-hand side and thought, well, why is that zucchini and summer squash, the yellow gooseneck squash, why is that 3 times as big as the organic squash?
That's the phosphate mining industry, which is the biggest fluoride producer, how it works with this GMO thing, because, they're starved for water. It's just water. That's why when you bite into this fruit, there's no taste to it anymore. It's like, I don't know about you, but how many times have you bought it's supposedly all natural, not GMO strawberries or anything, and you take a bite of them and you're just like, there's no taste here anymore. It just tastes like water.
Yes.
You buy organic, and then that's what a strawberry is supposed to taste like. That's what grapes taste like. Everything's just it's all visually attractive. There's just no nutrients.
Absolutely. You're listening to Truth Denied. We're winding it on down. We're on the air with Chris Maple, co-producer of The Great Culling, Part 1 regarding our water. And Chris, I just want to say, I do know so much of where you're at and the good work that you're doing. I mean, my goodness, and I'm all about this. And I want to say something to my audience and all of the people which are in the now millions who are reading The Truth Denied. That we, only 2 years ago we were just a page, a blog, and the public is part of what has made us so successful today. And I really appreciate my public. But I'm going to reach out to my public right now. And all the people that have been so supportive to us in many different ways, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and financially. And I would like to ask that anybody who was planning on donating to The Truth Denied this month, if you can do me a great big favor for the month of July, every $5, $10, $100 that you were going to donate to The Truth Denied, if you could do me a big favor and go over to www.thegreatculling.org and please donate it there instead. I would like that very much. I want to see this film get done.
Wow, thank you. Wow, that's so great of you, Roxy. I don't even know what to say. Thank you so much. You shouldn't do that, but you should. But
oh no! Now listen, I just had an argument with somebody earlier today about gift giving and receiving. Gift giving and receiving, it's not a gift for the gift giver or the gift receiver if there aren't 2 components to it. So she was telling me something earlier today that, she's having a hard time getting these gifts that she needs. And she's telling people, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. And I said, oh my God, you're robbing them of the miracle of gift giving. So gift giving, and this is what you guys need to learn over there. You do need it. You need to accept it with open arms because you are giving a gift back to the public as well. And the public knows that. The public wants the knowledge. So let it be a complete cycle. Just let it be. Open it up. Allow the gifts to come in, and the public will be very happy to do it.
Well, thank you so much. And you're right, because that's something I do need to work on. I really do appreciate you making that call to your audience, and that would really be wonderful for us. I know we could. Heck, we could get the film done so much quicker, and with some help from the audience. And that's just our biggest Achilles right now is our financially we're kind of stuck right now. So
that's right, and I understand what that's like. I've been there myself. I got real scared at a couple of times, and then it was like in the 11th hour, people came through, and it was like, oh my God, this is great. And I think that is the way of the world, and I think a lot of the audience even go through all of this. We're all going through a lot as a culture. We're going through a lot as the world, as human beings on this planet, and I think that we're at the crux of moving out of a paradigm, a way of thinking, into another paradigm. I think we've been doing that for a long time, and I think we really are nearing this tipping point where more and more exposure is happening, more and more truth, just about everything we ever learned, Mm-hmm. And so the support's going to be big, and it's going to continue, and volunteers, and we as an organization, just keep getting more and more help. And this is what we're all about too, and this is what you're all about. And right now you're at the beginning, you and Paul, of getting to the next step. You're at these stages of what you want to accomplish, and those stages will be accomplished, and more groups and organizations will step in to help you. I am very sure of it. So I'm putting that out as a fact and not a conspiracy.
Wonderful. Well, we do welcome that with open arms, Roxy. So
I know you do, and it's all good. And any last words of wisdom that you want to part with today for the audience? Again, we will do a video of this, so we'll add the photos that you all sent to me. It'll be a video. We'll put it on YouTube. We'll write a little article about it, and we'll throw that up on indefinitely, by the way. So it'll just stay up forever. We'll feature you for a week, and we're a little bit behind right now on features, so you might see yourself for another 3 or 4 days, but we will have you featured for at least 1 week. And any last words of wisdom for the audience, or anything that you want to say to add? I have a question. Who's in this film? I mean, can you give us like a couple of names? I know a few names that are in it because I watched them, but who's in this film?
Well, this first film here, we've got Dr. David Kennedy. He's, as I mentioned, the past president of the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. We have that injured phosphate mining supervisor, Gary O. Pittman, who authored the book Phosphate Fluorides, Toxic Torts. We also have Natural News as editor-in-chief, Mike Adams, the health ranger. We have a former senator and congresswoman, Karen Johnson, who's making an appearance in this film. We have the co-founder of the Fluoride Action Network, Dr. Paul Conant. Also along with the co-founder of Pure Rain Bottled Water, Dr. Laura Presley, all PhDs, these very intelligent people. We have Dr. Charlie Getchell. He's an organic chemist. We have New York Times bestselling author, Dr. Doris Rapp.
Oh, wow.
Oh, she's great. National Director of Citizens for Safe Drinking Water, Jeff Green. We have holistic and mercury-free dentist James E. Rhoda, and the list goes on and on.
That's quite impressive.
Yeah, that's just the water film alone. So I mean, it's just a really great list of heavy hitters in each of the components of the film, the topics. So they're the experts, not me, not Paul. I'm learning as I go. And one thing I did want to kind of put out to the audience, Roxy, that you mentioned is this film isn't just about doom and gloom. There's a lot out there, and it can be overwhelming at times. But more importantly, what we're going to focus on in this film, other than exposing all these issues with these metals and contaminations, are the solutions. And one of your guests had called earlier, where she's taking some of some solutions into her own hands with her home her home filtration system. There's distilled waters out there you can buy. There's eat more raw fruits and vegetables. Stay away from refined sugars. More importantly, communicate. Call your local water controllers. Head to the city council meetings. Get active. if you don't want to leave your house, well, every product you buy has a 1-800 number on it. You know, I mean, we're finding fluoride in canned goods. I mean, it's in everything. So just pick up that phone and call that consumer number and ask them, hey, is there fluoride in this product? Yeah, I'm not going to buy it anymore. One thing we learned from Senator Karen Johnson when she was in the office, she said it only took 5 to 10 phone calls, 5 to 7, she said, on a particular issue each day that would make her, from her constituents, that she would clear her desk and that would be the focus of the day. Now, that's a senator. Imagine what we can do just communicating our thoughts to these, to these consumers, these bottled water companies. They all have fluoride in it. Tell them you don't want it.
That's a really, really good call to action right there. And you're right. If you don't want to leave the house, people, you have a phone, so just sit there on the phone all day, or take 10 minutes of your day and make 5 or 6 phone calls, and that could be your whole methodology. If we could only get people to, actually do it, but some people do it. Some people actually go all the way to top of companies and educate the companies, because the people at the top aren't even educated about what's in their goods that they're selling.
Right. The power of communication, Roxy, it's just what this whole film's about. It's what you're doing. It's what the movement's about. And, for anybody out there who, during my journey here, I've got my hands on a consumer number for the White House. And I'd like to give the number out.
Oh, please do.
And I've called it. And let me tell you, an operator picks right up. White House. You tell them
Yay. Yeah, give us the number.
Number is area code 202. 456-1111. So I'll say it again, 202-456-1111.
Now, what is that number, the consumer
hotline for the White House? I mean, they'll talk to you about any issue you have, you want the White House to know about. They write it down, and they'll take your complaint. It's basically a complaint hotline. So I've called it a bunch of times about alternative energies. So it's not just fluoride is my goal and drive. I want to clean this whole planet up, and there are ways to do it.
Absolutely. Hey, look, we've got seconds. So please, people, www.thegreatculling.org. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with your film. Don't be a stranger. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you so much, Roxy. Thank you so much.
You betcha. You have a great weekend. You've been listening to The Truth Denied. I'm Roxy Lopez. Have a great weekend, everybody. And please stay tuned for Sean David Morton.
No rules. No rules. No taboo topics. No taboo topics. No fear of doom. No fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio. American Freedom Radio.
Interviews that are conducted during the course of a documentary, such as The Great Culling, it's quite a long road, and you guys have been working on this. Now, can we talk a little bit about that? Let's talk about you talked about when you and Paul got together and decided to do the film. You've expanded just air. Obviously, you're talking about food. You're talking about water. You're talking about, and I like what you're also bringing into the film is solutions. You're also talking to people, doctors who can bring in some solutions to the problem, to the health issues, because it is in epidemic proportions at this point, and there is no doubt of that. That is not fear mongering. It's the absolute truth. It's epidemic proportions. So I like that you're bringing a solution into the whole aspect of your film. So I guess my next question would be, can we talk about some of the people you have invited and have filmed, on camera? Can we get a little sneak peek at what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
I think, and I'd like to back up a little bit, because you did ask, what was it that got you going? And yeah, a lot of it had to do with the results from what in the world are they spraying. But personally for myself, Roxy, it was the vaccination schedule. Because I really took a hard look at the whole autistic spectrum and the pandemic that's really going on today, neurologically, what's happening, especially here in the United States. And that was my big focus personally, aside from the project. And And what I found out was, we had a schedule of 10 shots up until 1983. And from 83, the schedule went from 10 to 36, I believe. And 3 years after, in 1986, there were so many injuries due to the vaccination injuries, due to the increase in the schedule, that the whole vaccination courts were implemented. And what that did was protect the manufacturers as opposed to look out for the injured. And it wasn't until 1988 that the whole Vaccine Injury Compensation Act was implemented, and then they started, compensating the injured. But typically, as it usually is today, with corporations being looked after, more so than the people, it was the manufacturers who were protected prior to the injured. And again, that schedule, 10 to 36, 3 years later, we see this huge influx of injured, and it really got to me. It's what really got me going. It's really what basically got me up. And
partially to the genetically modified foods, as well as frequencies used for bioweapons, are the major causes of illnesses, and as well responsible for colony collapse disorder of our fragile culture used for pollinating crops known as bees. He serves to heal human ailments in his success. His success outweighs anything I've ever seen, by the way. In 1998, Michael Belkin of the Belkin Report out of Seattle lost his 5-week-old daughter hours after she was administered a Hep B vaccine, and has since gone all the way to Washington, D.C. to present the facts, coercements, the lies behind vaccinations. The book Vaccine Epidemic has 26 authors and contributors, and the book has been carefully documented as a tool for public awareness. Others, such as researcher Alfred Weber, broadcaster Jerry Pippin, Steve Swan, who represents the famous, who has now since passed away, Dr. Hulda Clark, Suzanne Taylor, Rosalind Peterson, Howard Stein, Bernard Alvarez of the GIC, running U.S. congressional candidates like Steve Sussman and Zach Grady out of Texas. In California, John Fitzgerald, Patrick Roddy. All of them have one thing in common. They have all given up their lives, the lives that they once had, in exchange for activism and spreading the truth that has been denied us for way too long. Even Dr. Phil has been quoted as saying, "Common sense just isn't common anymore." Welcome to the Truth Denied Talk Radio. I'm your host today, Roxy Lopez. And joining me to add to the list of activists who has given up his life is the co-producer of the educational film in the making right now called The Great Culling. And without any further ado, I would like to please welcome Mr. Chris Maple. Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm well, Roxy. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for coming on the show with us. It's just an honor and a privilege.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. I'm honored to be on your show. So,
the feeling's mutual. Chris, why The Great Culling? Why did you get involved with this film? What happened? What is the course in your life that led you to this dedication?
Well, it's a pretty broad question, but it's a good one. And I did a little work behind the scenes with Paul Wittenberger on his documentary, What in the World Are They Spraying? And once that film was, I said, I don't know, maybe FBI. I could see myself being an agent or something. And he had said, well, criminal justice is, and it sounded right. I really wasn't advised that well. But my junior year in college, I got ready to apply to the FBI, and they said, what is your degree in? And I said, criminal justice. And they said, nope, sorry, any degree but criminal justice. So I got out of that whole field. I did not want to be a police officer. I couldn't see, harassing people. And I'm saying that a lot of police do at all. I shouldn't say that, but I just didn't want to go down that road. And I ended up in the financial sector. And for a while I was there, and And I knew, again, deep down, it wasn't what I wanted to do. I was more heavily, artistic growing up, and eventually left that field and moved, followed my heart and moved to California, where I always wanted to kind of be. Southern California. I visited when I was younger, and just kind of fell in love with the area. And I picked up a camera then. I'd always kind of played with photography as a child and growing up, and kind of had a good eye for that. And I kind of relate that to my my artistic background growing up. So, once I got here, I just started playing with the cameras and taking headshots for various actors. And from there, it turned into weddings. And I met my wife, and we started doing that together. And now we shoot weddings and babies. So right back to the arts where I originally wanted to be. So it's been quite a journey.
I bet. It's fulfilling, though, it sounds like. Hello. Okay. Okay.
It really is. It's a tangent. You got me?
Yes, you're back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, you weren't there for a minute, but go ahead. Yeah, it's fulfilling, I was saying, and then you were making a comment, and we didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's an extremely tangible job. There's the reward is immediate. When you look down at with these digital cameras now, you can kind of see what you're doing, and so the reward is imminent, and it's immediate, especially with the clients, and just to be a part of people's special days, and especially with the newborns. And yeah, it's so nice. It's such a nice choice for us, and it works really well. We're able to work from home. It gives me the time to kind of dig into this other stuff that both you and myself and our audiences have been doing. So yeah.
Yeah, and can't complain. Now, what when you started, this is a big task, and believe me, I know. For anybody who doesn't know what it takes, the kind of research and
completed. We both looked at each other and said, "Here we go again, Paul. What's with these metals?" Once we realized what it was being released behind these planes, and at the same time, I was, looking into vaccinations on my own and just doing my own research and looking into the whole fluoride puzzle, and again and again, metal contaminations seemed to be the root of it all. And we looked at each other, and I said, Paul, here it is. The air was the final frontier, and as we know, our water has been contaminated for quite some time here in the United States. Back in '48, they began that program, and then the food with the genetically modified organisms. We saw that in the 60s, 70s, that sort of technology coming to the forefront, and here we are, the final frontier, the air. I said to Paul, look, here's the three main components that we need for life, deliberately being, contaminated, and I believe it's deliberate. I don't believe it's accidental, and that's kind of where we got going. We looked at each other and said, let's make a film about this. And at that time, I was ready to kind of come forward myself and be more of a figure, stepping up to the mic, I guess you could say, and that's basically where we got going. Paul did some great work on that film, and we just basically took it from there.
Right. So this is like an extension of that, and in looking over some of your trailers, also we do have the latest trailer on our website, thetruthDenied.com, for anybody who wants to take a look at that. And of course, you have several other trailers. Now, tell me, what are you? I know you're a photographer by trade, Chris, and you out of LA, and the background that you have. I noticed that you were in criminal justice or something like that at one point, or studied.
Yeah, it's funny. My background is like everybody else. Not everybody else, I should say, but younger, when I was in high school, and I was heavily into arts and advertising, and I was somewhat ill-advised by my high school guidance counselor on on the whole commercial graphics and that sort of thing, what I wanted. I told him I had a really good eye for detail, and he's like, well, what else do you want to do? Because there's no money in advertising or marketing or any of that. And
the American Freedom Radio Network proudly presents, live from Phoenix, Arizona, The Truth Denied Talk Radio with host Roxy Lopez. Join us here for topics you won't hear on mainstream news, such as chemtrails, GMOs, Morgellons disease, and much more. Humanity is 7 billion strong. We are the majority. And now, live from the Valley of the Sun, your host, Roxy Lopez.
Serious matters today. Very serious matters. It's Friday, the end of a long week, and the days just keep rolling, don't they? Air, water, and food have been contaminated all over our planet, and humanity needs to get a clue. Global stock markets are showing signs of yet another financial global catastrophe, making 2008 look like a winning year. Here in the USA, our citizens are in dire straits with their finances. They've lost their homes, their cars, their credit cards, and their health. Monsanto has taken over the world with genetically modified foods, people, only to find that bugs and weeds are now resistant to their poisons. So what they're going to be doing is bumping up the poisons. Smart. Yet diseases are cropping up worldwide. Diseases like autism, diabetes, lung cancer, fibromyalgia, IBD, dementia, IBS, malnutrition, stress disorders, heart attacks, and strokes. And these occurrences are all too common right now. The CDC even has a zombie apocalyptic warning on their website, if you can believe this. What's going on? A lot of citizens have turned to activism, and I want to mention a few of them because they're very important. Ones like Deborah Tavares in California of the StopTheCrime.net states that cell phone towers and smart meters are targeting the public with RF and radiation pulses that are causing people insomnia, depression, heart attacks. She says this is the end game. Russ Tanner of the Global Skywatch claims that heavy metal toxicity bombardment is causing health issues of all kinds across the world, part of the cause being aluminum oxide being sprayed into our skies. Dr. Will Spencer claims that malnutrition due